In the years before the Great War, Big Mountain had been the home to the brightest minds of the 21st century. Scientists of vision were drawn to the facility to tackle the greatest technological challenges of the era. They sought to create a new world, fueled by technology for the benefit of all mankind. Sonic emitters, space-age alloys, DNA hybridization, force field particle research, autodoc advances in cranial, cardiac, and trauma surgery. The hopes and dreams of a century became realities in the electronic forges of Big Mountain. The nucleus of this research was the Dome, a huge stone facility that held the labs of every science known to man. It was a think tank where no problem could not be solved, where no question could not be answered. The Great War brought a new energy to Big Mountain and its scientists. Although sheltered from the front lines, the scientists waged their own war, fighting their battles at the atomic level. Equations and calculations marched endlessly across chalkboards and computer terminals toward one solution: winning the war. For years, the minds and computers of Big Mountain were a blaze of trajectories, weapon schematics, and nuclear theories. The problems began to outpace the solutions, first geometrically, then exponentially. As the war escalated, so did the questions. On the night of October 23rd, 2077, the scientists received an answer that put all their questions to rest. In the aftermath, Big Mountain's silent experiments went to sleep, their creators slowly dying in the new world that had been left behind. And the great stone in the middle of the Big Empty lay untouched, filled with countless technological wonders. Wonders that, in the end, had been answers to the wrong question.
Old World Blues is 100% my absolute favorite Fallout New Vegas DLC to ever be made. Between the dialogue and the wild wasteland references, there is so much to love about this DLC. The only thing that I truly dislike about it is in the very beginning of the DLC, there is up to, I believe, 30 minutes worth of dialogue before ever leaving the think tank, and that is just absolutely insane. But some of the dialogue that you will face in that encounter is just so hilarious that it kind of makes up for it.
Why, it's down here, with its limbs all over everything. And are those penises I see wriggling on its feet? Disgusting.
As you can tell from that last clip, this DLC is kind of unhinged in all the right ways.
Penises are much larger than those tiny extremities. Not that I would know.
I don't recall the human penis ever being that large.
It depends on one's own frame of reference, Dr. O.
Side note, another thing that I forgot to mention while editing this video was that another thing that makes this DLC just so unhinged is that it starts off by explicitly telling you that they dissected your entire body. Your spine, your heart, and your brain are removed at the beginning of this DLC. Dialogue like what you saw from the last clip is just what makes this DLC the best at what it does. There's sci-fi weapons, very powerful armors. It's just crazy. You can become very overpowered by gathering all the stuff that you can out of this DLC, getting all the weapons, taking your time exploring every place that you can, and it's well worth the time and the effort to do so. Another thing I really like about this DLC is the fact that just by doing the side quests and the main quests, you can explore virtually 100% of the map in this DLC. That includes all the rewards that you can find and everything. All you have to do is search a little bit and you'll find every special item that can be found in this DLC just by doing the quests. Depending on what build you go for, this DLC will be your best friend. If you are a energy weapons player, then this is 100% worth the visit. There's multiple different energy weapons that you can find in this DLC that do high amounts of damage for very low amounts of ammo. If you're a ballistics player, however, it's still not a complete waste, since the one place that you can trade in this DLC has a max amount of upwards of 12,000 caps, depending on your level, and there's multiple different items that you can sell to make plenty of money. There's plenty of ammo scattered around the map for you to find, for you to use in your ballistic weapons. There's also multiple tie-ins to Lonesome Road and Dead Money throughout this DLC. You can find multiple mentions of Father Elijah and Ulysses as you travel throughout the map, playing through the main story of this DLC. Unlike other DLCs, this one only gives you one quest line to follow. It's optional for you to complete the side quest. You don't have to, however, it does affect the ending. The ending slides are all determined by the actions of the player. I added my ending to the end of this video, so feel free to watch it and see what you could do. I completed everything in this DLC, all the side quests, all the main quests. I believe I got the best ending. However, if somebody else believes that they did, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will check that out to see if I could have done better. But I believe that I did just about everything I could to get the main ending, but I may be wrong, so just let me know. As for the main quest of this DLC, your main objective is to retrieve the lost technologies of Big Mountain for the scientist of the think tank. You will use these technologies to destroy their foe, Dr. Mobius, in the Forbidden Zone. However, depending on your skills and your level by the time you reach the Forbidden Zone, it turns out Dr. Mobius is actually the good guy in this DLC. He is trying to protect the wasteland from the evil scientist of the think tank, and he's using these technologies to keep them at bay, basically to keep them distracted. That way they don't focus on trying to get out. You can choose to take out Dr. Mobius, however I did not. I chose to keep him around and retrieve my brain peacefully, and then return to the think tank with the technologies in tow, along with my brain, for the final conflict. After retrieving your brain and dealing with Mobius however you see fit, you return to the think tank, where you have to decide whether you're going to keep them around and settle this peacefully, or destroy them. I chose to settle this peacefully and keep them around for a little while. I chose to talk them down. This requires a high speech skill and doing the side quest that I mentioned earlier in the video. That's the only way to keep them around peacefully. If you do not complete these side quests and talk to the other doctors of the think tank or the scientists, they will turn on you. Nobody will help you in the end, and that is the only way to get the peaceful ending of this DLC. Personally, I like the peaceful ending, but the community may not agree. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. I would also like to go over, before ending the video, what my favorite weapons of this DLC are. I would have to say that it would be Elijah's Tesla Cannon or Elijah's Lair, and the armor choice that I would pick is the Stealth Suit. However, that also may not be something everybody agrees on. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, and make sure to join me for the next video. Enjoy.
As it had been in the years before the Great War, Big Mountain, the Big Empty, became home to one of the brightest minds of the 23rd century. The courier watched over the Big Empty for years to come, caring for it and keeping its discoveries safe until they were needed to help others. Which had always been Big Mountain's purpose. Past the laboratories and science, it had always been intended as a place to build the future of all mankind.
The Sync Central Intelligence Unit was impressed by the amount of exploration the courier had undertaken. Facilities believed lost, destroyed, or ones that had simply gotten up and walked to new locations. had been rediscovered by its intrepid new master. Internally, the artificial personality debated as to whether it preferred the old management to the new, and concluded that the courier's thorough approach to research and investigation was admirable and worthy of its respect.
Dr. Mobius continued his research undisturbed in the Forbidden Zone. As much as he had attempted to create better scorpions, he tried the same with humanity, with considerably less success. These failures didn't bother him overmuch. Once the rush of mentats wore off, he forgot he had failed in any event. After all, the bright young mind who had come to visit him in the Forbidden Zone had already exceeded his expectations.
The sink atop the dome bustled with the voices of a small town, constantly chirping, arguing, and snarling at each other. Still, this all happened productively in the interests of its new owner. The Sync Central Intelligence Unit discovered, despite its inversion code, it was comforted by the sense of community the other personalities gave it.
The biological research station, obsessed with seeding everything in sight, requested a transfer to the X-22 Botanical Garden, so that it might, in its own words, sensually fertilize the garden's smooth contours. The garden sent back a polite refusal, saying it had prior commitments with a vault it had helped infect before the war.
The bookshoot continued to devour all seditious materials until it nearly choked on a paperclip. It adamantly maintained it was a Chinese paperclip, and the whole thing had been an elaborately orchestrated assassination attempt. Whatever the reason, it slowed down for a while, carefully appraising each document and clipboard that came to it.
The light switches continued to bicker and flicker.
This persisted until the day someone dropped a flashlight in the sink, and the two of them united in their hatred of the showboat. One of them eventually transferred to the Lightwave Dynamics plant and began a long, unrequited affair with one of the holograms.
The Sync continued to ruthlessly scrub any particulate matter that came near it. Eventually, it gained access to the magneto-hydraulics plant and nearly flooded all the Big Empty in an attempt to scrub the crater clean. Once it learned of the innovative toxins plant, however, it gained new purpose. It sought to develop antitoxins to flush into its drains and counteract the poisons bleeding into the soil.
The toaster continued its psychotic spree, reducing all appliances in range to scrap electronics and spare parts. After one of its more psychotic episodes, however, the other Sync personalities decided enough was enough and dumped the toaster in a bathtub. Sparking and hissing, the toaster swore its enemies would rue the day when they had bread and no way to toast it.
Muggy did his best to collect coffee cups, although in his quest, he accidentally trapped himself in Higgs Village. It might have been the end for poor Muggy. Except, he found it peaceful there, tidying up the kitchens of the think tank professors back when they had been flesh and bone. Well, except for Dr. O, who was an asshole for having created Muggy in the first place. Muggy left O's house deliberately dirty, punishing the dishes and cups that lived there in blind revenge for serving Dr. O.
Blind old Jefferson, with sounds the courier brought him, created a symphonic counter-frequency that saved Big Mountain from sonic invasion in 2910. If you didn't hear about it, good. It was rumored by the other personalities that he had a brief fling with the light switches. Although he forgot their names much too often and was soon left in the dark as punishment.
Autodoc, always gentle and methodical, kept sewing up the courier in all the right places when the skin split open from repeated wear and tear. The Autodoc was just glad to have purpose again. It heard its simpler brothers and sisters who got shipped to the Sierra Madre were bored out of their skulls in that toxic, dead city. In time, the Autodoc found a way to deactivate the Y-17 trauma harnesses, releasing the corpses they had held prisoner for almost 200 years.
As the courier ran through the X-8 facility multiple times, the computers analyzed the test subject's movements. Rather than performing a superficial observation, they realized the subject barely knew what communism was, or even what a high school was. This confused them for a time, until the facility finally realized that its research had succeeded. So it let its cyberdogs out into the wastes to help protect small communities from physical aggression rather than communist propaganda.
The infiltration program in X-13 felt spent, having repeatedly upgraded the stealth suit until it could upgrade it no more. It felt warm, fulfilled, and a bit sluggish. It realized not long after, the stealth suit had left it, without so much as a note on the nightstand. So the infiltration program sent out robo-brains into the wastes, looking for its wayward technology. It eventually found Repcon HQ and set up a new research center, testing and murdering fiends who kept breaking into the facility.
The courier, organs intact, continued onwards, a little less heavy of step, but with all the organs in the right places, as they should be. After all, brains can develop a life of their own when left to their own thoughts, and the courier's brain was more clever than most.
Dr. Klein and the think tank remained alive, unaware of the world outside. They looped through their daily routine, none the wiser about the world beyond. Although perhaps wiser was the wrong word. The world outside belonged to the courier, and if anyone would shape it, well, the courier had already called dibs.
There is an expression in the wasteland, old world blues.
It refers to those so obsessed with the past they can't see the present, much less the future, for what it is.
They stare into the what was, eyes like pilot lights, guttering and spent, as the realities of their world continue on around them.
Science is a long, steady progression into the future. What may seem a sudden event often isn't felt for years, even centuries to come.
In the times following the Second Battle of Hoover Dam, however, Old World Blues took on a new meaning.
Where once it was viewed as a form of sadness, nostalgia, it became an expression describing the potential for the future.
It can be easy to see science as evil, technology unchecked as the source of all ills, all misfortunes.
With the courier at the helm, science became a beacon for the future. There was old world blues, and new world hope. And hope ruled the day at Big Mountain.
We could say more, but the stories in the Big Empty speak for themselves. Now armed with the transportal Ponder, the courier could return to the dome at any time and crack open the secrets of the Big Empty one by one. The sink sat vigilant, waiting for its master to return, shoes covered in Mojave dust. Only one road yet remained, and it was one the courier had to walk alone.